Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video.
Well, we're back out here on Giga-Texas. It's a Sunday. It's the 14th of May. It was very rainy today, so I had to kind of stop and start my flight quite a bit today. But it's also Mother's Day, so I want to take the opportunity to wish everybody a very happy Mother's Day, and I hope that you get a chance to celebrate with your family today. The next thing I want to talk about briefly is here. Coming up is Shareholders Day. It's going to be Tuesday, the 16th of May, and it's going to happen right here at Giga-Texas. And I'm going to do something a little bit special. I'm teaming up with Ellie in Space, and we're going to do a meet and greet right here where I'm standing. And it's open to everybody. You can see the information on this flyer. And we'll be starting at about 9 o'clock, running to about 10:30 on Tuesday. And it'll be great. Get a chance to talk a little bit about Giga-Texas, maybe a little bit about SpaceX, and do some live streamings from this location as well. So I hope you have a chance to come out and see that. There's one other thing that I want to talk about. It's again another delivery that happened here at Giga-Texas 2 days ago, and we'll get into that next, and then after that we'll fly around the site. Take care.
Continuing my series of What Did Joe Find at Giga-Texas, I thought I would talk about these items that I captured on both the drone video and images on the 12th of May video. And we'll talk about what these are, what functions that they provide. And I also like to thank my patron Desi Doolin for helping provide the links and additional information about these items. So what we saw being delivered at Giga-Texas are camfill dust and fume collectors, and these images give you a few ideas about how this system might be installed, assembled, and what it could look like when it is completed. Now I have links here on this screen and other slides. I would recommend you take a look at these links. They'll be in the video description as well for more in-depth information. But with that being said, let's talk a little bit more about these systems. Tesla has chosen to use the Camfill Gold Series industrial dust collectors for Giga-Texas, at least in this part of the factory. And what it's used for is to control the environment of hazardous and nuisance dust, also smoke and fumes, while taking up the smallest floor space of any collectors available on the market today. This uses heavy-duty carbon steel construction and also thermally cured powder coatings. This makes them very durable for any of the dings and nicks that may happen during the processing of an industrial site like Giga-Texas, particularly in this part of the factory. It uses a high collector efficiency filter called hemi-pleat cartridges, and you can see an example on the right. It uses a modular design for optimum flexibility, and we'll talk about that a few more slides. Customized for the OEM manufacturers, it's easy to install and maintain, simple cartridge replacement with quick release cam bars, and I'll show you that also, and it's about 25% smaller than competitors. This diagram gives you an idea of what it looks like inside and some of the features of the Gold Series dust collectors to protect workers from occupational exposure and combustible dust explosions. Also, it safely contains those dust, and it uses these gold cone filter systems, as you can see here, to do most of the filtration. Now the inset image with the gentleman gives you an idea of the size of these filters, and the image on the left gives you an idea of how this is installed and how it operates within the Gold Series industrial dust collectors. So let's talk about its modular and scalable options. As you can see by the left photo, this is a 2-unit assembly. The middle top photo is a 3-unit assembly, a 4-unit assembly on the top right. The bottom left shows you how those are stacked together, and then the bottom right is a 6-unit assembly. Here at Giga-Texas, they're using an assembly that's even larger than all of these combined, and it's very interesting to see how this system can be stacked together to make a larger overall machine. Referring back to the image that I took on the 12th of May, you can see in the upper left-hand corner how it looks as it was delivered at Giga-Texas. The bottom two photos show you that what we're seeing is the basic body of these assembled units, and it most closely resembles the one on the bottom right. This image shows you these parts that were nearby delivered at the same time, and what it appears is that these are the bottom funnels for the system and what it would look like when it's fully installed. So I hope you enjoyed this brief discussion about yet another delivery that I noticed at Giga-Texas. What does it do, and what is the importance for its installation here at Giga-Texas? I hope that you found this discussion informative and helpful and puts into context what we are seeing going on a daily basis at Giga-Texas. As always, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. So now let's get into the drone and fly around the site and see what it looks like today. A special thank you to all of my outstanding Patrons for your continued encouragement and support. Patreon members get access to hundreds of high-resolution photos, previews of the future material, and direct dialogue with me. If you would like to support my channel, please consider becoming a patron using this link, which is also in the video description. Please also consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. Happy Mother's Day on a very wet, rainy, stormy, and muddy Giga-Texas today. But we were able to get most of the flight done. I had to stop about halfway through because of the rains and then resume a few hours later. But I think we got a chance to see quite a bit of very interesting items, and we'll talk through that in the video. As we fly over the West Warehouse on Wheels, I want to show you the clearing section that has almost all of the gravel now. On the left, you can see that rectangular water detention pond actually holding some water right now because of all of the rains, and that contractor parking off into the distance. Now, as I fly towards the north, I want you to take a look at the center part of the screen. What's emerging is a two-lane divided road that is becoming quite distinct, and it will separate the two halves of this west support structure or support area. And you can definitely see where the medians will be, where the road would be, and how this is going to be laid out. So I think with the rains it helped see this now, but whoever some of my viewers were talking about, they thought this might be a road. It looks like you were right. So as we continue to fly to the north, you can see just how this is shaping up and where it connects to that north material staging yard. So let's fly around there, and then we'll resume the flight on the other side of the highway. So as I fight through some of the rain, we can see on the west side some of the work continuing to prepare the west wall for more of the white stain. It's kind of funny, the crews are doing pressure washing right now, but they had to end up abandoning this work because of the rains that will hit approximately 15 minutes real time from this point of the video. You can see most of the plastic has been removed from the windows. Here you can see, even though it is a Sunday, cars are exiting this new end-of-line location, and that small ramp on the left is where the vehicles are exiting. They are marshaled here, and then they are moved over to the east side. The west main entrance shows a few very interesting things. First, if you look through the windows, you can see some very large screens. It looks like they are doing some prep work ahead of Shareholders Day inside, so I would expect to see that that is where Shareholders Day will be held. And you can see as I zoom in most of those displays that are being tested out. We can also see that the cladding on these steel structures is not on, but I think they are just preparing the concrete in that trapezoidal section. They've got the landscaping and the potted plants around the cyber berms, but those steel structures, it looks like they are not going to have the cladding done ahead of Shareholders Day. But this is a good view looking at the structure. I'll pull away across the road just slightly so you can appreciate what the work is being done right now. And also you can see some of the rectangular concrete planters near this truck, and some more work being done around here. So I would expect to see those planters distributed around the site. Some more cleanup on the left ahead of the Shareholders Day with those water trucks. And as we continue down to the south, I want to just show you how this temporary platform looks today. You can see all of these white components, some of the funnels that we talked about, and also the Camphil Gold Series dust collectors waiting for installation inside. As we wrap around the building, we can get a good appreciation for the amount of rains. Just look at all the standing water and the mud around this side. This is not only because it's a Sunday, but this is one of the reasons why we're not seeing much activity here, is that it's just a giant mud pit right now. As we fly over the section where they are making the rebar cages for the continuing flight auger piers, we'll look at the south side of the cyber pond. You can see where they are working on the graded section here, which I believe will be the extension of River Road that will go under the South Highway or the South Bridge and across over to that west support facility. More standing water on the right, and here it looks like there's some trench work beginning across this section, which will eventually be the road. So another thing to monitor as the developments continue. So I'll give you a good overall view of the south end, and then there's some interesting discoveries that I want to show you on the southeast side of stamping. So while we're here, there's something that caught my eye off to the left of the screen. So as I pan the drone over and I will get closer in to this open door, I will give you a zoom in look. This is very interesting to see these castings in the stamping machine structure on the south end. To me, they look very different. They're larger, they have more webbing, and they are a different shape than those that we see on the northeast corner of casting that are associated with the Model Ys. So I don't know, I can't say 100% sure, but these do look different to me. Let me know what you think in the comment section of the video. As we get around to the east side of stamping, you can tell that the blue components here are some of the last remaining ones for the AIDA stamping press. These have been consolidated into this area after the rest of the items have been moved inside, and it looks like these are being prepared to be moved inside by SPMTs, or self-propelled modular transporters. As I fly over this small parking lot with the trailers, I'll show you the clearing that looks like the grade work is nearly completed and the elevation is about where it will be. And then about this point, the rains really hit strongly. So I actually had to wait about 2 hours, and then I resumed the flight at this point in time. One of the things I would like to point out, next to the superchargers and the canopies, you'll see this yellow section. This is a moisture barrier. It looks to me like they may be constructing a staircase, and this will be a way for the employees to be able to access those covered superchargers in a more easy manner than going across a dirt embankment. The tent on the left, I believe, is being set up for the Shareholders Day, and I think that's where initial registration and check-in will happen. You can also tell by looking at the new car staging and transportation lot. There is a truck that's already leaving with more Model Ys. It is busy, and they are producing and transporting vehicles today. This north end staging lot across from the warehouse and wheels, looks like there's not a lot of activity, but there is quite a bit of materials that continues to grow in this section. We're going to fly up towards the die shop and the battery cathode section, and every once in a while you'll see some raindrops on the lens. I'm sorry about that, but it was raining during this time, and I wanted to get the video completed for you today. On the east side of the battery cathode plant, you can see that large opening with that trapezoidal concrete apron. That 7-story tall assembled platform has been moved inside. You can see it just to the left of that opening. and it looks like the rails that they used to roll it inside have been picked up now as well. As we turn back towards the north, this is a good view of just how much water is coming down. Take a look at the staining on the bare concrete walls of the cathode plant just to see what I mean by that. The rains are forecasted to get worse the rest of the day and then into tomorrow, so that's another reason why I tried to fly this morning. As we fly up over this clearing location, you can see this large hill continues to be excavated, and they use that dirt elsewhere within the site. The north end appears like this. It's almost like a small depression. On the right-hand side of the screen is that equipment rental lot, and then this large field is where we've seen quite a bit of the materials stockpiled, and in the middle now we see another section of those materials being stockpiled. Because of all the rains and all the mud, I don't expect much activity here for several days until it has a chance to start drying out. So I'm going to turn back towards the battery cathode plant, and we'll resume back in that section to take a look at the west side. The tanks have not been moved in some time, so they continue to be stockpiled here at the north end of the building. The widened berm is very evident here. With the part on the bottom of the screen that hasn't been widened, this gives you a good appreciation for just how much of the dirt has been removed. Obviously, quite a bit of rains with the ponded water, so much of the excavation work here next to the dye shop where they've been doing the water pipe is most likely going to be stopped for several days. An interesting development on the west side, this large open section that has that deep foundation, and I'll zoom in, but one of the things that you will see is the wall panels are now being installed on the base, on that perimeter grade beam. So very quickly, this section most likely will be filled in, and then our views inside this section will no longer be available. You can see the wall panels waiting next to the crane for that installation. Now, this section of wall panels that is not installed, as I showed on my previous video, I believe that this is a window line, and it's very similar to what we've seen into that render that I showed you on my previous video. That other large open section on the top of this south end is where that second floor mezzanine is, and it looks like they actually poured concrete on that mezzanine, so it makes it much more of a permanent structure than just a steel platform, which is what it appeared initially. As we fly towards the alleyway, I will turn back just to give you a view of the roof and how much of the material has been installed, the double layer of insulation and that white weatherproof membrane. Looks like maybe about 75% completed, and they've been working on the interfaces to the walls as well to seal that gap in that intersection. On this west side, you can see the tall white tanks, the Matheson nitrogen tanks and the vaporizers. Also the work that's going on with the coolant plant and the Evapco fan units. In the middle of the screen, a new slab foundation is being installed. This is like a pad that I would expect to see more equipment installed in a future date. Again, as we look at the north end, you can see the rain coming down and just how wet it is. So I'm going to take this opportunity and fly across the site, and we'll resume the video at the electrical switchyard. The rains have also left this entire section quite muddy, and you can see the active rain on the lens right now. But as I bring the drone down lower, you can get an appreciation for how much of the gravel mix has now been installed. It's working its way towards the midpoint of the electrical switchyard. On the south end, just south of the fence line, More of those bore drillings have been completed, and inside each of the bores they're inserting these steel beams, and they are of different heights, as you can tell by the image right in the middle of the video. This is something I'm not sure what they are building, and it'll be something that I will monitor, and hopefully we'll get an answer about what exactly that is in the coming few days, maybe by the end of this coming week. The Megapack site just looks like a giant mud pit, to be honest with you. Obviously, there is no work going on today, not only because of the mud, and it's also a weekend, but I think the crews are going to have to wait for some of this to dry out before they can resume trench work and the conduit installation. It's just not really workable at this point in time. So unfortunately, I think that will delay them a few days, but we'll continue to monitor this and see how they progress on the preparation for the Megapacks. This is a very interesting truck with some equipment. I'm going to get a little bit closer for you to take a look at. It looks to me like this may be horizontal drilling, and I think this might be what was on the south end next to the south bridge. It's been relocated up to this section. If that's the case, then we may see some HDPE pipe horizontal drilling around this area. So another thing I'll be monitoring. Again, the conduit installation and the concrete vaults on the left are pretty much flooded and just a giant mud mess today. So I'm going to fly across Tesla Road. Let's take a look at the northeast corner and the east corner of the casting machine structure. On the berm that has been widened, the plastic is trying to do its best to keep the rains from eroding that raw dirt. Also, the conduit installation and the concrete vaults, all going to be waiting for a few days for it to dry. The castings on this corner, as I mentioned earlier in the video, do look very different to the ones that we saw on the south end at the stamping machine structure through that door. This is also something interesting. These are two different Model Y bodies. The one on the right is a 2170 variant, and the one on the left is a 4680. You can tell by the lack of floor in the one on the left. And also, if the hoods were off, we would be able to see that the one on the left has front casting, whereas the one on the right does not. As we wrap around towards the north end of the building, this is a good view of how this section of the building looks today. Just off camera, you'll see it when I do my pullback, there are a lot of employees out doing trash and cleanup around this section. Again, I think that's in preparation for Shareholder Day. Another thing I want to point out here is very interesting is if you take a look at the doors on top of each of these platforms, it looks to me like they have been shrunk in size. And they can do that because there's no concrete panels there, and that's why those concrete panels look like they're a slightly different color. The northeast corner looks like there is activity going on inside the 4680 production cell section as well. So that is a very wet, very rainy look at Giga-Texas on this Sunday. Very interesting development that we saw on the south end at stamping, and I am curious to see what you think in the comments. Also, happy Mother's Day, and thank you for watching. Have a great weekend.